Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're returning to Strategic Command, World War II, World at War. It is January of 1943 in our game as the Axis, and we've just taken the capital of Batavia, which should cause all of the Dutch East Indies to swing into the Japanese hands. We're trying to lock down Singapore, and if we can take Singapore next turn, I think my main objective will be to repair our battle fleet, which is pretty badly beat up. Essentially, we're driving deep into China as well, and we're threatening the second Chinese capital before the eventual capital, final capital, Urumqi, which I think we'll get to if we have enough time. The problem is the Allied counteroffensive is likely to start up pretty soon. So what my objectives are here is to quickly in the next turn, 2 at the most, reduce Singapore. At that point, pull the Japanese battle fleet back to Tokyo, or not to Tokyo, but back into the Japanese home islands, where we can repair it and get it ready to face off against the main American fleet, which is coming. Continue pressing into the heart of China to try and knock them out of the war, and then potentially reinforce Burma to strengthen ourselves against the British, and continue holding the line in the south against the British there as well. Meanwhile, the European theater isn't in as great a shape. The Germans just took Egypt, which is good, yay. But the Americans have just taken Algeria, which is bad, boo. The Italian and German fleets have been more or less wiped out. I think we have 2 ships left that'll probably die this turn. Italy itself is open to invasion if the Americans decide to do it. I'm hoping they decide they need to reduce Libya first, but we'll see how that plays out. We've got garrison units moving west, but it's a big question of what we can really do to hold them off. I'm thinking we can probably take Suez next turn, and then, I don't really know if we can feasibly advance into the south of the British colonies into like Sudan, or if we'd even want to do that. Or if we'd want to try and advance to Jerusalem and Amin. We're trying to convince the Syrians to join our side, so then maybe we can sort of divert British attention away. But really we need these forces here west to deal with the Americans, or at least delay them, hopefully preventing them from invading Italy, which is completely open to an invasion. The west coast in France is pretty vulnerable, but I think we've got enough garrison units there to at least deter an attack until 44. We have no hope if the Allies launch an attack against us in Western Europe, but my hope is just the game seems to work in terms of inviting attack, not based on the actual strength that you have, but the number of total units that you have. For example, in Manchuria, as long as you have a certain number of units and a certain number of cities, the Allies won't invade you, or the Soviets won't invade you. I'm hoping Normandy's the same thing, where they won't invade till 1944. With that being said, that may or may not be true. In addition to that, the Eastern Front is dicey. We've kind of advanced a little bit, overstretched ourselves probably, trying to get into a position to threaten the alternate capital, but we also need to reduce Moscow. The Russians got 7 units stronger this turn, which is a vast increase in their strength, and poses a bit of a challenge for us at the moment. We really need to take Moscow, if not this turn, which we obviously didn't, but maybe as soon as spring breaks and we kind of get back into the offensive mode, we can do that. We've got a large force in front of Moscow with a large amount of air power, but the Soviets definitely are stronger than us on the western part of the front, with our flank units over here. And in the south, it's probably, at least on the front here, it feels about even, but the Soviets have certainly more troops sort of over here and here as well. So if they switch over into the offensive, we could be in a little bit of trouble. My hope here is that we can shift enough of our troops south to deal with Grozny and Baku to sort of lock down the Caucasus, and then we can shift some of these troops north to maybe flank the Soviets as well. You could theoretically approach the alternate capital from the south, or, drive further inland to Perm, which is, I think, the Soviets' final alternate capital. But that's all kind of academic right now, because they're getting a lot stronger. This last turn, I think they built 2 new armored units, actually 3 new armored units here, here, and here, all level 2 tanks, or 2 of the 3 are level 2 tanks. This one might be as well, which are going to be a problem for us to deal with, so we'll see how this all plays out. Anyway, guys, we're about to jump in and see what the January 15th turn holds for the Soviets, so let's see how this plays out. UK morale suffers from the loss of Alexandria. The Dutch East Indies surrender, and Japan gets a gigantic economic boost of 285 MPPs for the fall of the Dutch East Indies. The Dutch troops are destroying vital industry. They sabotage the oil industry before they surrender. And that historically happened. We're still getting these Crete pop-ups because we've never actually done anything with Crete. Germany's developing new anti-aircraft tech, which frankly is kind of wasted to me. I have no real desire to invest heavily in anti-aircraft tech at this point. I'd much rather get more advanced tanks or other things like that. We're also hoping that Argentina joins our side. They're very close to declaring war on the side of the Germans, so if they do that, that would be great as a little bit of a diversion for the Allies maybe. Invade Brazil, perhaps cause the Americans to shift troops in that direction. I'm assuming the Americans are going to wipe out this light cruiser here this turn. They could move right into Syria if they wanted. But I hope the AI is coded to say, no, we need to deal with, Libya first, and they don't just leave our troops there. Okay, Soviets are attacking this mechanized unit here. They pulled back a little bit to prevent themselves from getting cut off. I was hoping to surround some of those guys, but that didn't work that way. Meanwhile, a limited Soviet counterattack here in the Caucasus to the west of Grozny fails. A Soviet army attacks our mechanized troops, takes casualties, and they're replaced by a corps in the rear there, a new unit built there. Meanwhile, our advance toward Kubenezhev, or however you pronounce that, is perhaps... Well, I don't know. There goes the Italian cruiser. There goes the Italian battleship. We still have one Italian submarine left, guys. And two German subs in the Atlantic and North and in the Soviet waters as well. Which, speaking of which, I can't remember if I moved that sub or not up on the Russian supply convoys. So it'll be February when it's our turn again of 43. I think we might have the Russian winter penalty this turn also, where our units take damage, if that happens again. I was hoping that only happened in 41 to represent the Germans' failure to prepare adequately for a winter campaign, but I think I saw someone on a comment somewhere say that that's a sort of an annual thing, and if that's the case, we're in some... That's gonna suck. British artillery near Suez, trying to pound our air units. Soviet mechanized troops cutting off our mechanized troops here. So these guys are now in a pocket. If they don't move anyone there, I should be able to escape it. Mechanized troops there, counterattacking south of Tallinn. Okay, counterattack to the west of Stalingrad. Armored counterattack here, just to the east of Moscow against some of our armor near Rezin. We did a little bit of damage there, but we got the worst end of that fight. Soviet units counterattacking all along the front. This is a little bit of a winter offensive. Our infantry, this corps here, did pretty well. Inflicted 2 casualties without loss against their armor. Meanwhile, in the north, near Finland, Soviet army is attacking near Viipuri, or however you pronounce that. British troops continue to attack in the south of China. I need to upgrade these guys. They're currently not upgraded in terms of their infantry weapons, and they'll have a bit of an advantage over the British Indians there if they do. Meanwhile, a lot of ineffectual Soviet infantry attacks thus far, even against that Italian army. I think it's mainly because they attacked with 2 infantry corps, I believe it was. Soviet shock army there. That's a level 2 mechanized infantry unit. Damn it, that's the first one of those I've seen. Every one of our units along this front seems like they're taking 2 attacks, except the ones directly in front of Moscow, presumably because the Soviets just reinforced that unit in Moscow and don't want to take the necessary risk by failing to attack with them. Or if they do attack with them, I mean. Sevastopol still holding out, launching attacks against some Romanian troops there. We've actually isolated these guys at Kerch as well. Unfortunately, the way the game works is that port gives them supply, even though they have no real feasible way to trace their supply. Chinese counterattacking in front of Langkao. Damn it. Why couldn't you do some damage to these guys? I have to reinforce these Finnish troops near Viipuri. I need to use that Japanese money we got from taking the Dutch East Indies to help rebuild that fleet. I had mentioned needing to repair our fleet. I need to make sure we don't just dither away that money. That was a huge boon. I think that's the largest industrial bonus that I've seen in the game for conquering any country. Would make sense given all the oil. And I'm assuming there will be a bit of a gradual increase in our economy in Japan as we slowly get those oil wells back online. Good God. What are the Americans doing in North Africa? I can't see. Please don't send your troops to Italy. Dutch submarines. The Singapore force hasn't reinforced yet. I'm hoping they don't. That's a lot of ships blockading them. I mean, if you're thinking from a realistic perspective, I can't imagine how they would actually be able to reinforce, but this game doesn't always care about that. Reorganization of KV-7. I'm assuming that's the Dutch sub here, or a Dutch sub. Oh, shit. Are the British going to land in North Africa? Or in Norway? American P-40s. Soviet garrison. Yeah, they're really strengthening themselves. It'd be great if I could form a pocket around here. Japanese celebrate the fall of the Dutch East Indies. British are deploying cruisers to the Indian Ocean. And it's going to be our turn. Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce star in the Sherlock Holmes adventure and The Secret Weapon. British Forces sweetheart Vera Lynn stars in We'll Meet Again. We'll meet again. I don't know how the song goes. I'm assuming it's a musical. Looks like she was singing. All right. And I don't know if I was trying a British accent or not. That was weird. All right. So, following our conquest of the Dutch East Indies, intelligence reports that the Portuguese Timor is undefended and could easily be seized by a detachment that's already well positioned to do so. There's a risk that seizing this territory may lead to war with Portugal, but given the situation in Europe and its distance from the Pacific, this is a remote threat. Would you like to give the order to occupy Portuguese Timor? Sure. Portuguese Timor is ours. I don't know what the real impact of that is. I'm assuming it means neutral countries will like us less. Singapore has fallen. There we go. Alright, let's get these guys over here toward Rangoon. Alright, so Singapore has fallen. I don't know if there's... Looks like there can be partisans in Brunei. It doesn't look like there's partisans anywhere else, except for maybe the Philippines. Long-range transport. Where do we want to send these guys? I really want to try and get them over to make sure that like our bases at like Rabaul and Truk and any Weetalk are not completely unoccupied. So we'll send this guy here. We're not going to unload them. We'll just send them here. Meanwhile, we have this transport, which is going to go here. And then the troops at Saipan are going to see if they can get to any Weetalk and disembark. Alright, so we've got fresh troops on any Weetalk, Kwajalein, Tarawa. We probably need someone on Nauru Island. Again, that's sort of an exterior base. I have no idea where the Americans are. Alright, so the Japanese have 585 or whatever. We found the enemy carrier! Alright. Enemy sub. Down he goes, destroying the British submarine. Alright, can we hit them from over here? I need to get my battle fleet back to port, I think. So we're gonna move some of these guys back toward Japanese waters, because frankly these guys need to repair. And I don't think they can repair fully at like level 5, level 8 ports at like Saigon and whatnot. I think they actually have to get back all the way to home waters. I guess we'll see. We'll put him in Kamran Bay and see if we can do the one reinforcement. See if this carrier can knock out this Dutch sub. Alright, we'll move him here. Actually, I'll move 2 of the carriers into Singapore. Nice. Combined operations between our carriers and our cruisers. Okay. We really need to try and destroy as many of these allied carriers as we can. Alright, cruiser goes here. Not too worried about a level 2 sub doing too much damage. These troops in Batavia. Can we force march either of these guys? Alright, I want to move this guy to Sarajevo, or however you pronounce that. And then maybe we'll move this SNLF force somewhere else. We need to garrison some of these locales. But that's kind of the South Pacific this turn. Meanwhile, elsewhere, let's upgrade these. Oh, we can't upgrade them because I don't have good enough supply. Well, shit. Nice. Level 4 damage. Okay, we'll move these guys into Chongqing. Okay, can we finish off this artillery? Almost. Alright. We're advancing toward the south of the Chinese capital with this pincer movement threatening to flank and destroy them. I should not sing. Okay, so snowy here. We can't bomb these guys or any of these guys. But we probably can bomb these guys. I think my whole Air Force is just going to focus on this one artillery unit because it's like the only thing I think I can bomb. Can't reach. I'm really curious what they have here. Alright, we'll move him into the capital. Alright, so we're on the doorstep. Shit. I think I'm really going to need air power to finish off these Chinese communists. Okay. Alright, so I don't think we're going to accomplish much on the Chinese front here. What are these guys for, to guess? There's sort of a defensive line here. Doesn't look like we can get much across it. We really need that mobility perk. Where are we at for research for the Japanese? Japanese mobility. We can't invest anymore. We're at 47%, and we really need that. Fuck. Alright. Well, might as well upgrade this guy then. 50 MPPs for him. 25 for him. These are already 2s. I don't know what that green thing means. Does it mean they're low on supply, maybe? I'm not sure. I mean, a lot of these units are low on supply. Hopefully moving this guy into Xi'an will help. Like, oh, this terrain is frustrating. Okay. I'm not going to spend too much money. I don't think on my troops this turn as Japan. But I do want to get as many of these, you know, while I've got some money. I do want to get as many of these guys upgraded as I can. Most of these guys are already fully upgraded, though. There's not a lot I can do there. So, okay, I think that'll do it for this turn for Japan. These garrison units, I do want to transport some of these guys. I don't want to put them adjacent to American submarines, so we'll do this. We need these guys to operate. I can't. Why? Oh, they're not on a railway. Well, that's a good reason why. Alright, they're going to move over here, so let's force march these guys somewhere useful. And then we're going to operate these guys in Shanghai, these Chinese troops here to prevent a rebellion. These guys will slide over here. And Cow doesn't have a risk of rebellion. Okay, so we brought one garrison in. I think we'll leave the other one in Tokyo for now. So I think that does it for the Japanese. We'll save that money for next turn. We'll need it. Meanwhile, the Italians should actually have... Don't we have additional reinforcements coming now? The Germans are waiting till April, February 14th and 16th, so I guess we're just... Our next turn we'll get an army and a garrison unit for Italy. Italy has quite a bit of money now, 300 MPPs to spend. Force march these guys into Tripoli. Along the desert road. These guys aren't going to hold up to the Americans, not even for a second. I wish... I've got no way to respond to this landing that's going to take place in Norway. I'm assuming that's where the landing's going to take place. I've just got no way to even get there. We'll reinforce that sub. This guy needs to head back to port anyway. Alright, so that does it for the sub war. I don't know how to respond to the British landing force because I don't know where they're going to land yet. Somewhere, presumably. Meanwhile, it's snowy in Russia. Not what we want to see. Our air units are going to be grounded there in the north. Can these guys fly anywhere? No, because it's snowing, I'm guessing. Nice. We almost destroyed them. near Kerch. Almost. They'll probably reinforce next turn. Okay. The Soviet core is getting driven back. Alright, so we're on the doorstep to Grozny. We just nearly destroyed that Soviet army there. Wow, let's wipe out this air unit. So we just destroyed a British aircraft unit here south near Stalingrad. Maybe we can destroy this infantry unit here. Nice. Shift the army into place, and there goes a Soviet army here. So we're advancing on the southern doorstep of Stalingrad. These guys can't upgrade. Anyway, so we destroyed one infantry unit here, one air unit over here. That should put a little bit of a damper on the Soviets. So actually, this guy can guard both of them, I think. Reinforce our air, since the Italian air can't fly this turn. Okay, so good results in the south. So if I'm being told from you guys that partisans are suppressed by any unit that's adjacent to them, so I think what we'll do... These guys can't operate, can they? These guys... can't either. So I guess I could put this guy here, and then I could force march these guys in Smolensk to the front. So I think that's what we'll do. Force march these guys to the front. Gets our mech troops safe. Nice. That's a good result. Okay. Nice. Okay, those mechanized troops are in a little bit of a precarious spot here. We'll see what the shock army does. It could advance, but it'd be putting itself in a bad position, I think. So let's see if we can bleed this army a bit. I love the sound effect when you're attacking troops that are like armored units with infantry. You hear that like bullet ricochet off the hull. Get these guys attacked. I'm just going to attack with these infantry mainly to keep their entrenchment down. So we knock their entrenchment away. Again, I don't really think I can do much against them until we have better weather. But at least if I can keep their entrenchment down, that should help. Alright, so there's troops here. If I try and advance this direction, I'm going to get way too overextended. I really can't afford to do that. So we are going to kind of pull in a bit. I'm going to destroy that Soviet garrison unit here. These guys are not dug in. Alright, so we destroyed a Soviet garrison unit that was newly built here. We moved our armor a little bit north. I really need to reinforce this armor. I don't want to take unnecessary casualties if I don't have to. I just don't have good enough supply sort of in this area. Trying to keep a little bit of pressure up on the Soviets, mainly just to like force them to keep reinforcing their units, I guess. Okay. Can we not reinforce them? Okay, so it doesn't look like some of those units can get reinforced. That's a little bit concerning. You know, let's get these guys out of here as well. Trying to wear down this armored or unit over here. All right, so that as I hit my microphone. Sorry about that, guys. Let's reinforce these guys. All right, so maybe if we strengthen some of these Finnish units, then the Soviets will eventually lose a little bit of strength here. Okay, so Finland is somewhat secure for the moment. Meanwhile, Germany still, I guess we use this turn to reinforce some of our air units, maybe. Upgrade some of the other ones. Give them their ground attack dues. At least the ones we can. See no reason to invest in naval attack for any of these guys. I need more headquarters units, I really do. I don't want to leave these guys out of supply, but I feel like I need to move this forward to get these air units in supply. I don't want to abandon these guys over here from an HQ perspective, but the real fighting is going to be over here in a turn or two. So we need them further forward. I'd argue the same is true of the Italian troops over here. So we're really concentrating our headquarters in the center of our front. That'll give us some efficiency penalties, I'm sure. We still have 391 points left. We don't have any diplomatic chits for any... Well, Japan does. We'll invest 1 in Argentina. Where's Syria? Syria's at 66 with a 10% chance. We'll invest 1 in Syria. So we still have the 200 or so MPPs we took from the Dutch East Indies, but now we're trying to increase our chances of bringing both Syria and Argentina into the war on our side. From the German perspective, they have 391 MPPs. We probably should invest some of that on some of our research. So I'm going to pour a little bit of that into advanced tanks. I can't invest any further in infantry weapons. Mobility is kind of, I think we have what we need. We can invest 100 of that into logistics. Hopefully make some progress there. Ground attack, that's for air units, right? That's a little expensive. We'll leave the 110 MPPs and carry it over. Meanwhile, on the desert front. Shit. Okay, we're dealing with artillery. So Suez has fallen. I'm going to try and pull my Italian headquarters west in a turn or two and get them over toward Tripoli where those garrisons are fighting. We did just take Suez, so we'll be driving into Egypt here next turn. Yeah. So the situation is very tenuous at the moment. The Italians have 172. Be real great to invest that in infantry weapons. What about, like, can they buy anything with that 172? They can buy more garrisons, but that's not going to do us much good. Maritime bombers, they can invest in those. They're not terribly great, but we could. We could also invest in motor torpedo boats. I don't know how long those take to build. I also don't know how effective they actually are. Do I want to give it a go to try and interdict the American invasion? I feel like maritime bombers would be more valuable there. Can they attack land targets? Again, naval carrier sub transport. Doesn't look like they have any other attacks. Honestly, I think I'm just better off sitting on that money. I'm going to need it to reinforce these units at some point. I'm just kind of disappointed that I can't really... I guess mobility, but not really. Like, that doesn't matter right now. These guys can't upgrade, so... Alright. Should we try and get around the Soviets here? They're going to move in and flank us if we do. So probably not. Did we lose that extra air unit we got from the Algerians? I didn't even see where that went. Probably. Alright, well I think that's going to do it for this turn. So we'll go ahead and save. We destroyed a couple units in the south near Stalingrad. We did some damage to some units around Moscow. If we measure actual losses in a monetary sense, it does say their Soviet losses exceed their income, but I don't know how true that is or not. Chinese national morale is 52. I can't imagine they'd be able to withstand losing in 2 more capitals. Like, really? They're cool with that? Anyway. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this episode. We're trying to move the Japanese fleet to rebuild it. Singapore has fallen, which should hurt the British morale, I would hope. British morale is where? National morale for Britain is at 76%. The loss of Singapore should hurt that more. The Japanese economy should get a big kickstart from the seizure of the Dutch East Indies. You've got 4 economic value here, 4 here, 1 here, 5 here, 4 here, 5 here. Another... I would think there's like 60 value at least in all these towns and cities we just took. Let alone when Singapore rebuilds its port, I imagine that's also going to be worthwhile, but we'll see. Anyway, until next time, guys, this is the Historical Gamer, as always, saying thank you for watching, and until next time, I'm out.